Hold on, I gotta pose for a thumbnail. We'll see which one makes it into the final cut. Green Day is probably the most well-known and most beloved pop-punk band of all time. Sorry, Blink-182. They found success in the early 90s with albums like Dookie and Nimrod, giving us bangers like Basket Case, When I Come Around, and Good Riddance. The song that's been played at every graduation ever. I know because I've been to every graduation ever.
Don't fight me on this.
They have classic albums, they have stinkers. Looking at you, father of all. But they also have one album that we will never, ever hear.
You gotta be fucking kidding me!
Hello and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, I'm Trevor and I am eternally uncool. I make videos about music, music culture, and anything that interests me. But mostly music right now. So if that sounds like something you'd be into, then I highly recommend subscribing to the channel and watching the rest of this video. Lost media is a topic that never ceases to pique my interest. There's just something about a piece of media that we may never get to experience that really gets my blood pumping. That sounded weird.
You know what I mean.
Lost movies, lost TV broadcasts, lost YouTube videos, and lost music. This last category is the one that interests me the most. Lost music is interesting because a band or an artist will work on a song or an album or a project, and for whatever reason, it will never see the light of day. Either they weren't allowed to release it because of their label, or they just didn't find it good enough to release. Whatever the reason, there is a crazy amount of lost music out there. There's lost songs, like Everyone Knows That.
Everyone knows that you got
Lost soundtracks, like Michael Jackson's soundtrack for the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie.
You're really weird.
And lost albums, which is what we're going to talk about today. I made a lost albums video a few months ago where I talked about albums by My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, and Fall Out Boy that were never released. I'll link that below if you're interested. But one of the albums I forgot to mention in that video was Green Day's lost album, Cigarettes and Valentines. There's a lot to talk about with this album. There's theft, a band that may or may not be Green Day, and the events that would lead to the creation of one of the most important rock albums of
All time.
This one's gonna be a doozy. So grab a drink, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's get into the video. After the massive career-making success of Dookie, Green Day released Insomniac, which was a darker and heavier sound than that of their previous releases. Green Day made this album as a response to their newfound fame and their shunning from the punk scene that they had come up in. They're fighting off criticisms and accusations of being sellouts for signing to a major label. Billy Joe told an interviewer at the time, "I think I was just lost. I couldn't find the strength to convince myself that what I was doing was a good thing. I was in a band that was huge because it was supposed to be huge, because our songs were that good. But I couldn't even feel that I was doing the right thing because it felt like I was making so many people angry." The album received fairly positive reviews from critics and showed that Green Day can still have that punk edge. The band would take a short hiatus in 1996 before starting work on their next album in 1997. That next album was Nimrod, which was a huge success for the band, with singles like Hitching a Ride, Redundant, Nice Guys Finish Last, and Good Riddance, which would be used in huge shows like Seinfeld. The album combined elements of ska, surf rock, folk punk, and acoustic balladry. They won awards, appeared on King of the Hill.
Yuck. I wonder if that music is what killed this grass.
Green Day kind of ran with that folk punk sound for their next album, Warning. This album was less successful and not as popular as their previous releases. And even though it produced hits like Minority, Waiting, and the title track, the band started to see a decline in popularity. They did what all big bands do when they experience a decline in popularity and relevance, and released a greatest hits album. Actually, they released two: International Super Hits and Shenanigans. Super Hits was the real greatest hits compilation, and Shenanigans was more of a collection of B-sides and rarities. They would co-headline the Pop Disaster Tour with Blink-182, who were getting a lot of attention off of the release of Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. This tour feels like a kind of passing of the baton of sorts. Green Day was the giant pop-punk band in the 90s, and now Blink-182 is taking their place as the giant pop-punk band of the 2000s. It just felt like Green Day's star was fading. If they were ever to reclaim the success and notoriety that they had with albums like Dookie and Nimrod, they had to release a truly once-in-a-lifetime album. In the summer of 2003, Green Day would enter the studio to start writing and recording their 7th studio album, tentatively titled Cigarettes and Valentines. Green Day wanted to go back to their punk roots with albums like Kerplunk and Dookie. Mike Dirnt said of the album's sound, "We've had a nice break from making hard and fast music, and it's made us want to do it again." And Billy Joe is quoted as calling the album good stuff. And working with producer Rob Cavallo, who had produced their breakthrough album Dookie, it seemed like they were poised for success. Now dig this. The album was nearly done. It was almost completely recorded, like 95%. When out of nowhere, the master tapes were stolen. The band initially called this a blessing in disguise, saying that the album wasn't maximum Green Day. Mike claims that there were backup tapes, but that it just wasn't the same. So they decided to scrap Cigarettes and Valentine and start from scratch. Now, I have a conspiracy theory that the tapes weren't actually stolen. Green Day knew that this album wasn't gonna be what they wanted it to be, so they had to figure out a way to shelve it without it being like a big thing. How does someone break into a recording studio? Is there no security? No cameras? Wouldn't the masters of the new Green Day album end up online? Was eBay a thing in 2003? And if they had the backups, why not try to recreate what you had? Possibly making it better. I don't know. It just seems fishy to me. And I'm not the only one who has conspiracy theories.
I don't believe in the apocalypse. I don't believe in the end of time.
After Green Day's album was stolen, it was announced that a band called The Network had signed to Billy Joe's label, Adeline Records. The Network concealed their identities with masks and costumes. No one knew who they were. They were like a 2000s version of Sleep Token. The Network released their debut album, Money Money 2020, in 2003. A lot of fans speculated that this album was a recreation of Cigarettes and Valentines, and that the Network was actually Green Day and friends making a sort of side project. Green Day would deny any involvement with the band, and the Network would make statements in the media shit-talking Green Day. But somehow the Network would end up opening for Green Day multiple times.
Coincidence? I think not.
Obviously, the Network is Green Day. Green Day is the Network. I don't think you need to be Sherlock Holmes to come to that conclusion.
Discombobulate.
Even back then, no one bought that these were two different bands. They sound so similar. Literally, no one else sounds like Billy Joe. Plus, Green Day were credited as songwriters on Money Money 2020. In 2013, Mike Dirnt would spill the beans and say that yes, Green Day is in fact the network.
I am shocked and appalled.
Now, whether or not Money Money 2020 is a recreation of Cigarettes and Valentines is up to interpretation. None of us really know what Cigarettes and Valentines sounded like. We only have one song to work with. In 2010, in Colorado, on their 21st Century Breakdown tour, Green Day would play the title track off of their Lost album. This particular concert was being filmed and recorded for the live album Awesome as Fuck. This led fans to speculate on whether or not more songs from Cigarettes and Valentines were going to be released or re-recorded. But as of 2024, nothing else has been seen of Cigarettes and Valentines. As far as the song Cigarettes and Valentines goes, sounds like Green Day. It doesn't sound like Kerplunk or Insomniac era Green Day. It sounds like 21st Century Breakdown Green Day, which makes sense seeing as they were in that era when they played it. They obviously polished it and spiffed it up a bit. I don't think it's the true original, but who knows? Who knows? Will we ever hear Cigarettes and Valentines? I don't know. I want to say no, but I'm not quite sure. Seeing as we got a live version of the title track, it doesn't seem that far-fetched that they could release some other tracks off of the album in the future. Green Day went into the project with the idea of getting back to their roots and recapturing that same kind of energy. But they realized it wasn't what they really wanted to make. So they scrapped the album and instead started recording what would become their defining work. I don't know who stole the master tapes, but I wonder if they feel a certain amount of pride at being such a big part of rock and roll history. What do you think? Will we ever get to hear Cigarettes and Valentines in full? Are there any other lost albums or songs you want to hear me talk about? Let me know in the comments. That's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, then I highly recommend smashing that like button and sharing this video with everyone you know. I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024, and every like, every comment, every share, any interaction with this video at all really helps me out and pushes this video to more people who might be interested in what I'm doing. If you want to follow me on my socials, I post most frequently on Instagram, records I buy, video ideas, photography. With all that being said, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Trevor. Stay uncool. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.